Hi, I'm Alan Hedblum. Welcome to our show, a place to feel like you belong. Across the world, whenever countries are in crisis, their citizens seem to focus inward, turning their backs on the newcomers who immigrated there. With the economic recession of the last decade, Americans responded similarly, with calls to send back overseas workers and protect U.S. jobs. Our next guest is going to tell us why this isn't a good idea. Feel Like You Belong is delighted to have in studio today Karen Phillippi, Deputy Director of Michigan's Office for New Americans. Karen, welcome to Feel Like You Belong.
Thank you very much, Alan. Glad to be here.
So you're a very busy woman. You're on the road a lot. Tell us what your average week is like.
So I split time between Lansing and Detroit, generally. I travel to other places as well, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Traverse City, just depending on who we're meeting with. But our office is a statewide effort, so we try and meet with folks around the state as often as we can. Typically, I am in Detroit 2 or 3 days a week and Lansing the other days.
Okay, and who are you meeting with?
We meet with a variety of stakeholders that we partner with. We meet with economic development groups, universities, nonprofits, other state agencies, ethnic chambers, ethnic business organizations. We partner with a whole variety of stakeholders to further all of our efforts with regard to immigration.
Sure. So you originally worked in law. How did that background prepare you for what you're doing today?
I did. So I'm not an attorney, but I have worked in immigration law for 23 years, and most of that being at law firms. So I know immigration law fairly well, and that really helped me for this job, from having an understanding of wanting to look at immigration and how immigrants can have a positive impact on economic development in our state, and what we can do within current federal guidelines to promote immigration and folks to come to our state, as well as looking at state agency services that are provided to immigrants to see if there's any way to minimize or eliminate barriers or streamline processes.
Okay. So in the 2010 census, Michigan was the only state to actually lose population. And so your efforts are particularly important. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So Detroit in particular lost approximately 25% of its population during that time frame. And Governor Snyder is extremely passionate about immigration and the belief that immigrants have a positive impact on economic development. They are some of our job creators, and a lot of the statistics prove that. And we aren't promoting that immigrants are the answer to repopulating our cities or the state, but that it is a piece of the puzzle.
What is special about immigrants? I mean, we're here at Feel Like You Belong. We're big immigrant fans, but I need to hear it from.
Sure. So immigrants, you know, a lot of them, well, I've heard it said a lot of times, and I actually believe this as well, that just the fact of immigrating itself is an entrepreneurial act. So people are leaving their homes to come to a new place. And that in itself kind of is that entrepreneurial spirit.
Risk-taking.
Risk-taking, exactly. And people are doing it for a variety of reasons, right? We have some folks who are coming here to go to school. Some folks might be coming, they might be transferred from a Japanese parent to a Japanese subsidiary here in Michigan. They might be fleeing, you know, as our situation with many of our Chaldeans who are here, who came as refugees. So they're coming for a whole host of reasons, but all of them contribute, in my opinion, to a better Michigan.
Sure. What does Michigan have to offer?
Michigan has lots to offer. I mean, when you look at just from a Four Seasons standpoint, there's a lot to do within the state. Specifically with regard to immigrants, though, I believe that Michigan really is on the forefront of a lot of the immigrant integration efforts going on right now across the country. So we look not only to attract new talent and new immigrants to the state, but also looking at our existing communities and ways that we can help our existing communities integrate better with each other, with others that are in their communities, as well as with those that are coming, the new folks that are coming. You know, Michigan's got although we don't have the highest number of immigrants, we are very ethnically diverse. So we do have a lot of immigrants from different areas around the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had mentioned before our governor is extremely proactive. In fact, one of the leading state officials across the country in terms of recruiting immigrants to Michigan. What are some of the groups that you partner with in your efforts?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, we partner with a whole host, and I can give some examples of some of the partnerships that we have. Within state agencies, for example, we partner most closely with LARA, Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. They've been a tremendous state agency partner for us. We are actually now housed in LARA. That move was made in the last month. And LARA has been working to put together skilled immigrant licensing guides. These licensing guides, right now there's 20 of them available online. They walk through the credentialing process. So people who are foreign educated, foreign trained, who may require a license in the state of Michigan, a nurse, a physical therapist, a teacher, a barber, a cosmetologist. So anyone who has some type of profession that requires licensing, but did not go through their education or training here in Michigan. These licensing guides walk through on a step-by-step basis of how do I get credentialed and or licensed in my field in order to get a job in my field in the state of Michigan. And LARA is committed to providing 5 new guides every 6 months. They've been doing this, though, for the last probably year and a half. They've been doing these licensing guides, so that's great. The other thing that LARA has done is they have published one phone number to call for licensing assistance. There are tons of licenses that a person could apply for within the state of Michigan, and there's one number now those individuals can call to get licensing assistance. We also partner with Welcoming Michigan, which is an effort, the Michigan chapter of Welcoming America, which is an effort to help with immigrant integration in communities, in particular working with what we call receiving communities. So the individuals who might already be in that community. And Welcoming Michigan does a really wonderful job of hosting a whole variety of events geared toward specific age groups or individuals' interests. They do cooking classes, they do English speaking classes where people can communicate back and forth if they want to improve their English. They host dialogue discussions. Again, those are really usually targeted toward age groups because those who might be 50 and older might have a different topic of interest of discussion than those who are teenagers. So those are just a couple of the partnerships that we have. We've got numerous all around the state. Being a small office, that's how we really try and accomplish our goals.
So it sounds like you're working with a government agency that's trying to streamline life so that people can enter and participate really fully.
Absolutely. That is one of the missions or goals of our office as directed by the governor is to work with state agencies to try and minimize or eliminate any barriers or streamline processes so that it can be more efficient for individuals to go through whatever that process might be within a state agency.
Because bureaucracies are difficult enough for everybody, but if you're from another country, another culture,
it can be challenging if English isn't your first language. Again, if you are just new to how our government works, could be completely different than how the government operates in their home country. So there's a lot of different nuances that make it so we try and help again with those, the state agencies that provide the services to immigrants to try and make sure things run as smoothly and efficiently as they can for those individuals.
Sure. In my introductory remarks, I had mentioned that across the country, especially in hard economic times, people get a little edgy. And we are hearing some shrill voices saying, those people, they're taking our jobs, they're corrupting our culture, they're changing everything. What's your response? What's your office's response to those kinds of
So we really look at, as I mentioned before, the economic impact that foreign nationals have, in particular on the impact for our state, the positive impact they can have on our state. If you look, and this is across the spectrum, so a lot of times people refer to the highly skilled, highly educated as our job creators. And they are. It has been shown in statistics that individuals who have, foreign nationals who have advanced degrees create about 2.5 jobs for U.S. workers. That's great. However, it has also been shown through statistics that agricultural workers, farm workers, the migrant farm workers who are working in our agricultural industry add anywhere from 1 to 3 jobs up the food chain as well. So they may, when you think about it, if you've got someone out picking a crop, that crop has to be shelved at a grocery store, sold at a grocery store, served at a restaurant, cooked by a chef. I mean, there's the processors who work at the food plants. I mean, there's a lot of different jobs that go down the food chain, so to speak, from that initial harvesting of that crop. So they are also some of our job creators as well.
Sure. And as a reminder, the immigrants often will take jobs that non-immigrants just frankly will not take.
That can be true as well. That can be true as well. And interestingly, the other information that we usually provide when people ask us about jobs and job openings in the state of Michigan, Bing and I generally talk about two things. One is the Michigan Talent Bank. There are, last time I checked, over 80,000 open jobs in the state of Michigan that need to be filled. So that's a great place for people looking for work. You know, there's a lot of opportunities there. As well as in December of 2013, there was an engineering job fair in Metro Detroit, and there were over 3,000 open engineering jobs at that job fair, and there were only 276 applicants. So statistics like that, in our view, help demonstrate that positive impact that immigrants can have on economic development, as well as the need to supplement our U.S.-born talent with some of the foreign talent.
Sure. So basically, we need workers. We have work here in the state
absolutely
to be done. So
and all varying skill levels. Absolutely.
Come on in and join us in the Mitten State.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So do you have any success stories that particularly inspire you?
You know, we have, it's not necessarily for an individual. One of the things that we're very proud of that our office, the Michigan Office for New Americans, accomplished through state agency partners last year, partnering with LARA, Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, we brought a nonprofit to Michigan called Upwardly Global. Upwardly Global, Michigan or Detroit was the fourth office for Upwardly Global. They are a national nonprofit. LARA and the MEDC has provided some funding for that office for 2 years, and Michigan State, through its generosity, donated space for 2 years in their MSU Detroit Center. And Upwardly Global works with permanently authorized individuals, so people who have a green card generally, who are either unemployed or underemployed, and works with them on soft job skills as well as some job placement. The typical scenario here is a physician driving a taxi cab. So you've got individuals who might be very highly educated from their home country, foreign trained, but don't know how to go through the credentialing process here, don't understand how to write a U.S. resume, may not be familiar with U.S. job interviewing skills, and UpGlow helps them with all of that. So we were really thrilled to bring Upwardly Global to Michigan to help with our existing immigrant community as well as new immigrants coming into the state to assist with those type of job placement skills. And they do work with individuals who have bachelor's or higher degrees, and actually I think it's about 30 to 40% of their job seekers have master's or higher as well.
If we've got highly trained people, we might as well put them to work in areas
absolutely.
where their skills are going to be
absolutely.
maximally used. I mean,
sure.
Good for them, good for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Karen, thanks so much for coming by the studio today. Really appreciate having you here.
Thanks for having me, Alan. It was great.
You bet. For folks who are watching it back home, stay tuned. We'll be coming back shortly with some segments on American humor, American culture, and a little bit of slang. Do you toot your own horn? This is an expression that Americans use to talk about self-promotion. That is, talking about the good things you have done. In some cultures, promoting one's skills or achievements is seen as distasteful and inappropriate. Individuals there are supposed to talk about the accomplishments of the team, not the self. U.S. American culture, however, believes that if a person doesn't tout individual successes, he or she won't get noticed in a competitive work environment. So in short, American workers have become practiced at taking credit, sometimes when it wasn't totally deserved, so that they can get promoted or noticed by another company. Here's a list of this year's top 10 economies, according to GDP. Now, let's look at these countries on a scale of individualism versus group thinking, according to TMA World's cultural assessment tool called Country Navigator. If 1 represents the strongest level of individual orientation and 10 the strongest level of group orientation, then you can begin to see where clashes of belief systems might occur. For example, if a group of Japanese business people are working with an American firm, they may perceive their U.S. counterparts as shameless braggarts, hogging the credit. On the other hand, the Americans may think that the Japanese don't have any confidence in their own ability, perhaps because they're indecisive and stuck in a herd mentality. Note that bragging, hogging, unconfident, and herd mentality are negative words that judge others according to our own cultural standards. If we know we're working with groups who have a different way of viewing accomplishment, we might better use a system that compares people in a non-judgmental way. Using a scale with numbers is then a good start. Then we can talk about more individualistic or less individualistic behavior, and then make adjustments in our thinking according to the context of the business deal. If you'd like to see suggestions on working more objectively across cultures, visit our What's Up blog at this address. We wish you good luck as you continue this navigation. Two Americans were out drinking and found themselves at the bus stop after a night on the town. While they were standing there, a convertible drove up. The driver shouted out, "Parlez-vous français?" The drinking buddies looked at each other, shrugged, and looked blankly back at the driver. "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" the driver tried. Again, the two shrugged and said nothing. "Habla usted español?" shouted the driver. The two looked at each other and shrugged as the motorist sped angrily away. "Do you think," said the one, "maybe we should try to learn a foreign language?" "Nah," said his friend. "That guy there spoke 3, and it didn't help him a bit."